Hello, welcome to Sundays. So as of right now, I am about to go and sit on my porch and do like a mini read a chapter tag for two of the arcs I have. Basically, I haven't decided which one I want to read first, and both of them need to be read in February. Today is January 31st, so February basically. I am going to sit down right here, try a chapter of both of them, see which one I enjoy more, and then hopefully continue on with it. I am expecting an Amazon package to arrive at any moment, and as soon as that arrives, I need to go film my January wrap-up, balancing the books, however I am going to be calling it. And as soon as that arrives, I might be switching over to one of the books that is in that package, just because I'm so freaking excited about it. For the moment being, the two books that I am choosing between are Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas, which is the author they are the author of Cemetery Boys. Their new story is about a Peter Pan contemporary fantasy magical realism story, Peter Pan retelling. Did I say all of that? I don't know. So I'm excited about it. I'm going to try that one first, and then the second one I'm going to be trying is A Desolation Called Peace, which is the sequel to Katie Martin, let's go with it, A Memory Called Empire, which was one of my favorite books of last year. It didn't make it on my favorites list of 2020, but it was so freaking close and I really loved it. And it is like a sci-fi fantasy story about a diplomat in space, and she has to go to this planet and she's left alone trying to solve the murder of the diplomat before her. Let's try it. Those are two very different vibes, and I am going to see which one I'm in the mood for. My phone is dying, so I had to come in for a second, and unfortunately when I'm charging my phone I have to have it so low, so this is going to be the awkwardest video to film. I have finished the first chapter of Lost in the Neverwoods, and I'm liking it so much more than I thought I was going to. The writing reminds me a little bit of Katrina Leno. I think part of that might be the contemporary YA magical realism weirdness vibe that it has. It's darker than I thought it was going to be. There was this creature in chapter 1 that jumped onto our heroine's car, and it was made of shadows, and it scratched the front windshield almost completely out, and I was like, I wasn't ready for that. But I'm really enjoying it, and I'm kind of hesitant to put it down and start A Desolation Called Peace, because I'm like, if I really like this, shouldn't I just continue with it? But also I know that the book I want to read is coming in 2 to 3 hours, so like maybe I should just wait. These are the problems I go through every single day. So I made it about halfway through chapter 1 of A Desolation Called Peace, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I think I just was nervous that the sequel wasn't gonna hold up to the first one, and that's why I was hesitant to pick it up, but it's so good, and it has everything that I love from the first book. I had to stop though halfway through the first chapter because I was losing my light and I needed to film my wrap up for the month. And then I decided while I wasn't in the middle of reading something, I would meal prep for the week and then make dinner and eat dinner. So I'm done with all of that. And as I was sitting down after finishing dinner, about to start some reading sprints, and then also in the same package, of course, was this one. Oh my god. So I really should finish the first chapter of A Desolation Called Peace, but it has like 10 more minutes because they're pretty long chapters, and I'm already pretty decided that I'm going to be picking up this, and then I'm pretty sure I'm going to be picking up Lost in the Neverwood. So I don't see any reason to finish it, but I really loved it, and I'm excited to get back into it once I'm done with these books. It's just a matter of I just have other books I want to read first, whereas this, it is good. It's very good, and I'm excited to get to it. I did the math, and for me to finish all of the physical books that I want to read this month, I need to read 80 pages a day. So today is technically not in February, so it could have been like I don't need to read anything, but I'm trying to read over 100 pages today so I can just like make it easier for myself later in the week, because I know that like Wednesday I am extremely busy and I tend not to read at all on Wednesdays. If I can just make my life easier now, it would be really helpful. So I've actually already read between half of that chapter and the Lost in the Neverwood. I've already read like 40 pages, so if I could read like another 100, that made me really happy, but we shall see. Hello, it is Monday. I'm home from work and I cannot see you because I took my contacts out because I have a horrible headache. But that is unrelated. Yesterday, I ended up reading somewhere around 150 pages in total. So I read one chapter of Lost in the Neverwoods. I read almost one whole chapter of Desolation Called Peace. And then I read, I don't know how many chapters, but 120 pages of The Missing of Clairdelune. So I can't show you any of that because the first two are arcs, which are on my Kindle, and I could hold out my Kindle, but what's the point? Really. And The Missing of Clairdelune, the first couple of pages came out, so I glued them last night, but I am like pressing them right now, so hopefully I can pick those up after I finish talking with you, but I didn't want to deal with it for camera. So I did play my TBR bingo the other day, and when I played it, I hadn't had The Missing of Clairdelune yet on my shelf, on my TBR, in my vision of books I was going to be reading this month, so it's not on the board, and I'm kind of panicking because it needs to be, because I love this book and I want to read this and possibly the next one if I can, maybe at the end of the month. So I need to sit down with my handy dandy board and reorganize the tiles that I can see to try to fit this one in, because I want it to count for something. And I guess like I could say that if I finished this and then later flipped a square that it fit for, I could count it, but last month I had that issue and I wasn't really sure how to handle it, so I just said no. But I feel like I should let myself handle it, so I'm just on the fence about whether or not that should be a rule or not. I'm gonna see though if I can fit it in and if I can move all of these other prompts around, because there are like 2 or 3 books that I put on my TBR that I really just don't care about, and I could fit them in later into the month if I want to. I'm home. I think I'm going to, right now, since I have a headache, maybe try to read a little bit of Lost in the Neverwoods, eat something, maybe go for a walk if I can. The temperature outside yesterday was 76 degrees when I went to bed, and as of right now it is 45 degrees, with it supposed to reach like 33 tonight. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to walk, just because I don't want to get myself sick again because of all the temperature changes, so I'm trying to stay as warm as possible. Normally I would go outside and appreciate this cold weather, but cold weather hasn't been treating me very well. So I have some windows open, I'm enjoying it, but like from a distance. One thing I am doing this month, and I probably won't mention it again, if I do it won't really be that much, is I'm actually going to be doing a page counter. So I don't care about how many audiobooks I read every single day, or how many minutes I listen to, because I know that I listen to audiobooks a lot, so like I'm not tracking them. But I looked at all the books I want to read this month, and if you include The Missing of Clairdelune, Daughters of NRI, Lore, A Desolation Called Peace, and Lost in the Neverwoods, I needed to read 80 pages a day every single day. And so I'm doing, like in my journal, I'm doing just a page counter to see how many pages I get every single day. So as of like right now, I'm not even at 50, but you know, I'm hoping I can get to 100 most of the days, because I know that I tend not to read on Wednesdays or on Thursdays. So I'm hoping that on the other days I can kind of make up for that. My goal is to read a good chunk right now as like a way to relax, because I think I'm just stressed. I think the headache is a stress headache from this situation I had to deal with at work. Hello, welcome to Tuesday night. I am tired. I've just finished some sprinting with a friend, so I'm gonna be going to bed soon, but I need to talk to you guys briefly before I do that, because I finished my first book of the month. So I finished the book for green cover, which was Tales of the Hinterlands, which is the like novella short story collection that goes with the Hazelwood, and it's all of the fairy tales that you're supposed to know from that book. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, especially for being a collection of short stories and being a collection of fairy tales. These fairy tales, of course, are really bizarre and really weird and dark, and kind of don't have like a moral meaning behind them. Like as you're sitting there reading them, you're trying to figure out, like, are we rooting for the mom? Are we rooting for the daughter? Are we rooting for the witch in the woods? And really you're not rooting for anyone, and it's kind of a weird collection. I wish I could have had the illustrations to go along with it. I do hope one day to be able to look at those, possibly buy it and look at them, but I really freaking enjoyed it, and I rated it a 4.5, which is higher than I rated the Hazelwood and kind of confusing. So I'm gonna remove this, which is awesome. I feel great about that, and now I get to flip these two. So this one is 3-word title. I'm gonna be thinking about those later after I go to sleep. And the next one is title does not contain letter G. Last time I used House in the Cerulean Sea for that one. I wonder if I could reread House in the Cerulean Sea this quickly. I probably shouldn't. Those are the 2 prompts that I received for finishing this one, so I'm pretty excited. I have been reading a ton of Lost in the Neverwood and The Missing of Clairdelune, and I technically started Legendborn today. I'm still in the middle of chapter 1 though, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'm 45% through with Lost in the Neverwood. I'm gonna save comments until I'm not so tired, just because they can't think super straight. And then I'm at page 150 of The Missing of Clairdelune, hoping to get a few more pages done before I fall asleep, even if it's just like 5 more, honestly. I also tonight set up a calendar prediction for what physical books I'm going to read the rest of the year, because I kind of know how long it takes me to read physical books. So I'm kind of trying to estimate how long it'll take me to get through this stack down here of books that I own physically and haven't read. And if I stay on this very tight tracker, I'll be done with almost every single one of them by the end of June, which just, I know that my TBR is small compared to most people's, but I just, looking at these books, some of them have been on here for so long that I'm like, do I even want to read them anymore? Like, the fact that I bought them almost a year ago or even over a year ago and I haven't read them yet kind of tells me that I just never want to pick them up. But I don't want to get rid of them either, because if I decide I want to read them one day, there was a reason why I bought them, because I couldn't find them somewhere. I'm stressed, but not in a bad way. The stress is pushing me towards the realization that maybe it's time to do a really strict unhaul. I did like an unstrict unhaul in December where I was just basically like really loose with myself and was like, oh, if you don't feel like it, don't bother. But I think I might need to sit down and do a stricter one where I actually think about, am I going to read this book? Or is it going to always be something that I pick a different book before I pick this book? Especially because I want to get back into borrowing physical library books again. I haven't been able to because I've been trying to get through this stack. Now there's a lot on here that I would not unhaul. There's a lot on here that I just haven't gotten to for one reason or another, mostly because I'm scared to start them, or maybe they're really long and I am hesitant to pick up really long books because I know that it makes me feel like I'm not accomplishing a lot. But also, you know, I'm reading The Missing of Clairdelune, which is like 540 pages. Long books don't have to be an issue if I don't make them an issue. I had something else to say and I don't remember it right now. Hey, I am just updating the books that I am listening to audio for, but also have the physical copy. First off, I remembered what I was going to say to you all yesterday, and that is that I bought a book yesterday. It was an audiobook and it was on sale. And it was on a ridiculous sale. I got it for $2, I think it was. So like, I don't feel bad, but I've been struggling since this year started with the whole entire idea of, if I can only buy a book at a certain time and I want that book, I know I'm gonna read it, but I'm not gonna read it right now. I don't want to count a bingo for it because it was a sale. Like, should I allow myself to do that? So I'm just gonna wait and see how the rest of this month goes, because I might have a spare bingo that I want to pay for it. The other thing is, I know that I was thinking about the fact that maybe I could carry it over, and then if I have any books that I don't have paid for, I could do a punishment, and the punishment would be I have to read that book next month. But I don't want to do that for this book. I'm struggling. I'm struggling with a lot of things, but mostly with that. As of today, I haven't sat down to do like really much of any reading. I was super busy at work. I did come home and did some audiobook listening to while I went on a walk, edited a video. I normally don't talk to you guys on Wednesdays because I go over and spend time with family, but we had to cancel this week because of reasons. So I am home this evening and I'm going to be doing some reading sprints with friends. Let me tell you really quickly what is going on. So I haven't read any of my physical books. I'm going to start with Lost in the Neverwood, which I'm at 45% through as of last night. I'm enjoying it. I'm not absolutely loving it, but I'm enjoying it. I think that I really like Wendy as our main protagonist, but I do not like Peter, which is nothing new. I've never really liked Peter Pan in any kind of rendition of Peter Pan. I think in Peter and the Starcatchers, I actually liked Peter, but that's probably the only time out of any movie or TV show, book, retelling, like even Once Upon a Time, don't really care for Peter. I mean, I think he's a great concept in Once Upon a Time. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to continue on with that tonight for sure. That's going to be the first thing I read. I'm going to try to knock out another 80 pages of it tonight. And then I am at page 160 of The Missing of Clairdelune, which I'm freaking loving. Something happened last night that just made my heart like brrr, and I was like, I want to keep reading, but the next chapter was 20 pages and it was already like 10:30, which is already past my bedtime. So I was like, I can't keep going. I can't do it. That also means I should tell you about my audiobooks. So I'm currently listening to 3 audiobooks, which is just kind of crazy. I'm listening to The Providence of Fire, which I haven't picked up in a few days, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'm listening to Legendborn, which I have the physical copy, and I think I'm going to switch over to the physical copy because I'm just really not enjoying the book, and I don't know if it's because I'm listening to the audiobook or if it's because I don't mesh super well with YA contemporary fantasy, but I don't know, and I want to really like the book, so I'm like, if the audiobook is what's not making me love it, then I should put the audiobook down. But I'm also not really loving any of the audiobooks I'm in, but this is the only one that I feel like DNFing, and there's a long line after me at my library, so it's like if I give the audiobook back, other people could read it, but then I have to DNF, and I don't know how to replace it on the board because it was a very specific pick for the board. I'm also reading Hall of Smoke, which I'm also not really absolutely loving, but I don't feel like DNFing it, so that's at least a step up. This is like a Viking, I guess, inspired fantasy. The issue I'm having with it is it's just really slow. I'm actually doing a whole entire video on this book, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore in this video, but it'll be coming out soon. I don't remember exactly when, but soon. And then I received a special package in the mail, which I can't see, and I just worked out, so my legs really hurt. So if you watch my, my wrap-up's not out yet. My wrap-up will be coming out this Friday, and in it you'll notice that one of the books I paid for last month with my bingos was my book club's pick for this month, which is Daughters of NRI. It finally arrived. It took like almost 3 weeks for this to arrive from the people I ordered it from, but isn't that so pretty how that gold works? So I'm not going to be reading this week. It's probably going to be next week's book, hopefully next week's book. So I'm just going to set that back down on my shelf and say to you goodbye because I gotta get some reading done now. Heyo, it's Thursday. I think I'm going to stop this vlog Friday or Saturday because I just feel like we haven't talked a ton, but I have some things to update you on. First off, I think I'm in a freaking mood right now. As of today, I started a new audiobook. I DNF'd an audiobook. I put another audiobook on pause, and then I just cannot seem to get myself to sit down and read. I've read 10 pages of The Missing of Clairdelune, and I'm loving it. I'm freaking loving it. It's awesome. But I just don't want to pick it up and read right now. And so I think I kind of just need to let myself have a day and just not read. I'd really like to finish the chapter I'm in because it's another like 10 pages until it's done, and I'd like to end on a chapter. I think I'm just gonna have to be okay with myself if I don't read 80 pages today. That's what my goal was for every single day of February. Yesterday I did read 200 pages. And I haven't gone less than 100 since February started. So there's like no issue with me just only reading 10 to 20 pages today, or nothing at all if I decide not to continue on. Let's kind of talk about the 200 pages I read yesterday were all for Lost in the Neverwood, which I finished, and I didn't love it. I really didn't. I had a lot of the same issues that I had in Cemetery Boys, which is the writing was just kind of juvenile for me, even for YA. It read honestly closer to middle grade, in my opinion. I know I mentioned earlier that there were some darker themes, but they really weren't that dark. I also think that the relationship in the book just was kind of forced and unbelievable. The plot was lacking. There was no plot. The first 85% of the book, we don't meet the main antagonist on page. We hear about them and just don't meet them. And it's just the two characters, Wendy and Peter, walking through the woods or swimming in a waterfall or getting ice cream together. So if you're kind of okay with slice of life books, this might be more interesting to you than it was to me. I don't necessarily mind character-driven books if I like the characters, but I really, like, Wendy was fine, but I wanted to see more development with her as the story went on. I felt like we built this great character in the beginning, and I wanted to see her grow and change. So if you don't know about the book, her two brothers go missing before the book even starts, and she went missing with them and has come back and has no memory of that time while she was gone. And more children have gone missing in her town, and she almost hits a boy in the road, finds out that it's this person, this mythical person that she's been telling these fairy tales about. Her and her parents are going through a lot. They're grieving a lot because her two brothers are missing. And she just, because of that, she's taken on a lot of the responsibility at home. So she volunteers at the hospital every single day because I think it's summertime while this book is going on. And she also does all of the cleaning and all of the cooking at home. And she definitely has compulsive tendencies. I wouldn't describe her as OCD, although she washed her hands constantly and she organized things a lot, and she felt the need to be the person cleaning the entire house. Although her parents didn't help her with that. Her dad also had some abusive tendencies where it wasn't necessarily that he ever hit her or even yelled at her. He was just stern with her. And also she would have these thoughts in her head where he'd be like sleeping in the living room and she'd be like, I don't want to wake him up because I'm afraid of him yelling at me when he wakes up. Or, oh good, he's not home, I can like take a breath. And those are just not positive emotions to have about one of your parents that you're living with. So I was expecting something to be done with those two things at the end of the book, but I really don't think anything was done to discuss Wendy's mental health and how she dealt with her two brothers being missing for the entire book. I think that would have been really, really important to bring up and to discuss. Honestly, for a 400-page book, it could have been 200 pages, and I can't believe that you missed talking about the like most important part of the book. Beyond that, is just kind of a slow story. I think Cemetery Boys was better, to be honest, although I didn't absolutely love Cemetery Boys. I rated it 3 stars. I liked the characters more in Cemetery Boys, and I liked the diversity a lot in Cemetery Boys. This book definitely was lacking in the diversity area, and I read some other people's reviews who have also received ARCs, and I agree with them. Not every book has to be diverse, not every book has to be inclusive, but for this author to have such an amazing, inclusive, and diverse book for their first novel, it was kind of a shame that this book didn't have that. And I also read the author's note at the end, and they said that it took them 7 years to write Lost in the Neverwoods, and I just feel like I would have expected a little bit more from a book that had been worked on for 7 years. Anyways, I'm rambling. I haven't officially rated the book as of right now. I'm still kind of holding off on rating it and writing my review on Goodreads and NetGalley for it just because I want to sit with it for a little bit longer. So I guess if I rate it before this vlog's over, I'll tell you. If not, you can check out my wrap up at the end of the month and I'll let you know then. But that means I can remove another card. So for that, I was doing title contains letter D, which means I can remove this and I can flip this card. So let's flip that right now. So this says book more than 600 pages. Oh boy, I am gonna have to do some thinking on that one and come back to you all later. So let's continue talking about the mood that I'm in. The book that I paused today is The Providence of Fire, and I literally paused it just because I'm not in the mood for an adult fantasy right now. Like, I'm loving the book and it's so good, but I just don't want to listen to an adult fantasy. So the book I started today was The Traitor Queen, which is the sequel to The Bridge Kingdom, and I listened to over an hour of it today and I'm really enjoying myself. So I think that was a good choice, and I do want to get back to Providence of Fire this month. I just needed a little break from it, and that's why I have the paused shelf. The book I DNF'd was Legendborn. I know, I'm like really disappointed with myself for DNFing this. I just couldn't get into it. I'm not a really big fan of YA contemporary fantasy to begin with, but I read The Witches by Cass Morgan and I don't remember who the other author was. Apologies. And I enjoyed that. I didn't think it was like great or anything, but I enjoyed it. And so I thought I'd give this one a shot. I think that if you're like a really big fan of Percy Jackson or Shadowhunters or what was the other one this reminded me of? Oh, Star Daughter. I think you'd like this book a lot. I think a lot of people love this book as it is apparent online. I just couldn't get into it. So I think I'm going to like wait a little bit and then try to pick up the physical one because I was just listening to the audiobook and maybe the narrator and I didn't vibe. So I'm going to try that, but I also kind of think that it's just not for me because those 3 books that I just listed, I didn't really love any of them. Maybe I should just know like there's a certain type of vibe with YA fantasy YA contemporary fantasy that I just don't vibe with, and that's okay. Good morning. I'm gonna need you to sit down and buckle up because we have a lot to talk about. I got really freaking excited to come and talk to you yesterday after work, but I got home and I didn't even turn my light on. I got home and my roommate was watching TV in the living room, which is totally allowed, but she was watching it so loud that I couldn't record without you hearing what she was watching, so I just waited. But I have some changes to the board to make, some discussions with you to be had, and something really cool to show you. So I'll show you the cool thing at the end because I'm really excited about it and I hope you are too. Let's discuss the board briefly. I DNF'd Legendborn, which normally I would replace a book that I DNF, but since this one was specifically for this book, I'm not gonna be able to replace it. So I have some fun changes coming to the board in March, not big ones, just really small things. So I am going to allow myself to pull this card, accept the prompt, say like, yeah, I accomplished it, even though I didn't finish Legendborn. That one is gone. I'm tired, I just woke up. I have some tea waiting for me and I can't wait to drink it. It's really hot right now. So I listened to the entirety of The Traitor Queen. I think I might have told you that I started it. I don't totally know, but I started The Traitor Queen and I finished it. So let's get rid of this real quick. Finished The Traitor Queen. Oh my god. I liked it more than the first one, which was kind of shocking because I wasn't expecting it, but it was just really good. I rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars because it didn't have 5-star vibes, but it was absolutely as close to a 5-star as something that a book can be without being 5 stars. I think there was this one scene and it was this ex machina camel that showed up that if that hadn't happened, I think I might have rated it 5 stars because there would have been nothing holding me back. The first book I read last month, but I wasn't able to talk to you about it because it's actually for a secret TBR that I've been keeping completely hidden up until now, but here's the moment where I tell you one of the books for that TBR. It won't be coming out until sometime in March because I am just full of videos all of February. That's unfortunate, but in other good news, it's coming out as soon as I can physically get it out to you, and then you'll get to know the other books I read for it. So in the first book, we follow this girl who is raised by this king to marry off to their enemy land so that she can be a spy over there. So it's arranged marriage and it's enemies to lovers. And she, of course, gets over there, meets the king and marries him and doesn't like him. He doesn't really like her, and she starts spying on him and starts to realize that her father might not have been right in everything that he was doing. Book 2, I can't tell you anything about because the book picks up right at a giant spoiler for book 1, but it was really good. If you read book 1 and you liked it, I recommend reading book 2. It was phenomenal. I plan on picking up book 3 whenever she writes it. Book 1 and 2 were a completion to a series. They're a duology, but she's writing 3 books after this about some of the other characters in book 1 and 2. So she said online that you should read book 1 and 2 so that you can get a grasp of the world before going on to the next series, but it really won't affect like plot and stuff. So I'm assuming that there will be spoilers in book 3, 4, and 5 for book 1 and 2, but I don't know. And I think originally book 3 was supposed to come out last year or this year, and it appears online that that's not going to be happening. So I don't totally know when it's coming out, but I'm just gonna keep my eye open for it. I haven't read much fantasy romance. I usually stay away from it because I just can't stand how authors write sex scenes. There's something about how certain authors do it, but I didn't mind these ones. It's definitely an adult series, definitely adult. There are some graphic sex scenes. I think there's only like 1 or 2 in each book, to be honest. I didn't hate them, I didn't mind them. I wasn't like cringing the entire time the author was writing them, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe that's because I am older now and I can appreciate them a little bit more, or if that is because I just really liked how this author did it. I'm rereading some of Sarah J Maas, and I'm reading other Sarah J Maas books for the first time this year, so I'll be really curious to know as I go forward her sex scenes, because I read them when I was younger and I didn't like them, if they are different now that I'm an adult, if I appreciate them more, or if I tolerate them, or if I still like can't stand them. To be fair though, the ones in Throne of Glass series, I don't like the characters who are in the scene, so that might have been like a huge factor into why I didn't like those scenes. So I'm wondering if in ACOTAR, if I like the characters, if I'll enjoy the sex scenes more when I get to them. I also did notice I haven't read From Blood and Ash or the sequel or the third one, of course. Everywhere online when you are talking about the Bridge Kingdom, people compare it to From Blood and Ash. So I think if you are a fan of From Blood and Ash and you want more stuff like that, this would be a series for you. I think there's going to be some type of challenge coming up for me this year where I'm going to have to be reading From Blood and Ash, which I'm not necessarily mad about after reading this book. I think maybe I just got off on the wrong foot with fantasy romance by reading Throne of Glass as like my first fantasy romance, because it really wasn't the one for me, and maybe I should give it a second shot with some other books, because I really enjoyed this one. Although to be fair, I don't think the romance was a huge part of the book. Like, they definitely were growing together and bonding, and there were definitely parts where they were like, ooh, I love that person, but for the most part it was about like the politics and this bridge that is ruling the kingdoms. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. That's all I have to say about that. I haven't picked up The Missing of Clairdelune in a few days. I think I'm just kind of, sometimes I get in a slump for just physically reading. Like, I'm still listening to audiobooks, but physically I just don't want to do it. And I think that kind of came from finishing Lost in the Neverwoods, which I think I already discussed with you guys, and then reading so much every single day for the first like 4 days of February. I was reading over 100 pages every single day, which like isn't too bad. I can do that, but I think forcing myself to do it and like tracking it and everything was like starting to kill me. Planning on reading more of Missing Clairdelune. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm loving it so friggin' much. I can't wait to get to the next one, the something of Babel, the Memory of Babel. But I just think right now I just need to take a break and be okay with the fact that I'm taking a break. So right now I did just pick up A Gathering of Shadows, and I'm like 25% into it. I'm listening to the audiobook while I'm kind of working on some stuff, and I'll show you that in just a second. But I think after that, if I don't go back to Hall of Smoke, which I'm listening to, I might pick up Crown of Midnight. So those are kind of the plans for next week. So recently on Book Roast's channel, she has been doing these really cool like collage pages of books that she's reading. And I used to do some collages a few years ago, and I really enjoyed them. They're a way for me to find creativity when I'm not necessarily feeling creative, and I haven't felt creative in about 1.5 years, to be honest. I don't want to just blame it on the pandemic, but the pandemic had a huge role in it, but there were other factors too that just had a role in it. And I hate saying like, oh, I haven't made art in over 1 year, because I make art every single day with my job, and I make art for my Etsy store and my Redbubble. So like, I'm creating. It just doesn't feel like I'm making art for me, which is a huge benefit, being an artist, being able to make art for myself. I was super inspired though. She made this page for this Addie LaRue. What the hell is the full title? She made this really cool collage page for it, and it just inspired me, and I haven't felt that inspired in so long. It was absolutely amazing and wonderful, and I hope that I'm gonna be posting this on Instagram, so I hope that I can like let her know how inspirational she was in this, because it was just like, I saw it and instantly I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to make some collage pages while I'm listening to audiobooks about the audiobooks I'm listening to. So last night I was listening to A Gathering of Shadows while I was trying to fall asleep, but I couldn't fall asleep, so I got up and I decided to collage, and this is the page that I made for it. And I guess I'll show you some better clips of there. It's really gold and it's shiny, and of course this light is not gonna let you see the gold and shininess, but I really freaking love it and I'm really happy about it, and I'm gonna try to get a picture of it and post it on Instagram today. So I was wondering, I absolutely love doing this stuff, and since I do a Monday video every week, it's a vlog, and I do a Friday video that's kind of like a fun other thing, I think it'd be really fun to do some collage videos where I'm doing them for books. I don't know if that would be the kind of content you guys would want to watch or not. I used to do an art channel where I would like time-lapse create art, and it was really fun, but I didn't quite get into it like I got into my booktube channel, to be honest, and I really enjoyed doing this. I think I might do that. I don't know if I would actually do like a time lapse or if I would do like a full length just sit and create with me, because those can be really beneficial too. I don't know. Or if you just want me to do like, I show you steps along the way as I'm making it. I've had lots of ideas of encompassing my art into my booktube channel over the past year since I started my channel, but none of them have come to fruition because it's hard to, I mean, making a video is creating something, so it's hard to create a whole entire other object and then video it and then create a video on it. It's just a lot of creating and it's a lot of work, and I can't necessarily time it into my schedule, because when I plan out for the month what videos I'm going to do, if I just say, okay, I'm gonna do a book review here, I'm going to do a vlog here, I'm going to do like a 24-hour readathon, I'm gonna do a bookcase tour, I can know that I can film those in an hour or in a few days. But when I'm doing like redesigning a book cover or creating a collage for a book, I don't necessarily know that I can do that in a day. Like sometimes I just have to like try again, and it just won't ever be right or won't ever be like the level I want it to be, and then I don't have a video for that day. So I'm just really hesitant to fully encompass my art into this channel, but I want to do it somehow. My tea's at the right temperature, so I'm gonna leave you now. I hope you're all having a great week. I hope that this vlog wasn't super short. Last week's I think was pretty short, but whatever, it is as it is. Anyways, thank you for watching. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books. I'd love to talk to you about them. And I don't remember how my outro goes, but until next time, I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye.